Well, hey there. It's been a couple of days since we did this.
Yeah.
And what better way to come back to
Wait.
the world of art cinema
Okay.
than with our first Tarkovsky film.
Yeah.
This is The Mirror or Mirror, depending on the translation. They remove the the.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Mark, what did you think of this?
I had a hard time with it.
I kind of felt that
Yeah.
way.
How did you do with it?
I thought it was incredible.
Okay. I was floored by the opening
Okay.
and I got distracted.
Got distracted.
Or not distracted, but like I got lost.
Okay.
I had a hard time tracking it. And the reason is this film is very poetic.
Yes.
And its narrative, I think that's okay to say without spoilers.
Yes.
I don't want to say more about the structure, but because I had a hard time tracking it, I had a hard time deriving meaning from it.
Okay.
But there were things about this film that were really, really cool that I really, really liked. The editing in this film is incredible. Tarkovsky has a sense of timing that is just out of this world. And a very special knack for cinematography.
Yes.
That is very, very special.
Yes.
And the use of the medium of film itself as a storytelling device.
The exact, yes, I agree with that completely.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Although I have the sense that this kind of film is almost for another people. Like this is like the Russian people's film.
Absolutely.
So like watching this myself, it's like, ooh, like everything goes over my head. I feel like this film assumes that you have a very deep knowledge and connection with Russian culture, especially, as well as history in that part of the world.
That's true.
Yeah, and that makes it hard for me to connect with this film. But heck, can I appreciate it?
Yeah. I can't connect with it, but I was certainly moved by it. It's really hard for me to talk about my experience with this film. I don't understand what I just watched at all. But at the same time, it was just a pure cinematic experience like nothing else.
It's a lot like poetry.
It felt like I was dreaming.
That's how I would describe the narrative structure, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, this is kind of a spoiler, but a mix of dreams and reality and not really differentiating between the two.
Yeah.
Very clearly.
And
I think it really comes down to memory.
Yes.
And like viewing the film as memory. And having the surrealism in the film, maybe even a distortion of memory. I don't know. That's just an initial first interpretation, but that's what I got from it.
I can't even talk about that.
Okay.
When I say it felt like a dream, it literally felt like a dream. As in, I did not think about... I mean, certainly sometimes I pick up on things that kind of give it like some sort of circular structure or like a motif comes back. Even that's pretty rare, at least from this viewing. But when that happened, like, there was nothing in me that wanted to put the film together. It just felt like I was dreaming.
Interesting.
It just felt like one experience. And there are certain scenes where when they began, I was like, this is a little boring. But then at some point, any part of my brain that thinks that just shuts down. And I just become one with the film. And so I can't even critique it at all. I can't even talk about... I don't know what to say except that this was one of the most unique film viewing experiences I've ever had.
Interesting.
And that I don't know what to say other than you should give this a shot, and if it's for you, you will dig this like to no end.
I've been meaning to watch Tarkovsky for the longest time. You know that there's a video game that I deeply love that has a clip of a Tarkovsky movie in it.
Nostalgia.
I won't say what, but
I already ruined the name of the film.
Oh, I won't say the game.
Oh, okay.
Because it's a fun surprise.
Good. I almost said the name of the game. So,
okay, yeah.
We'll keep that.
Yeah, keep that sort of
I gotta play that game.
Yes, you do. Well, I mean, if you don't enjoy that kind of game, then you just don't enjoy that kind of game.
I'm pretty sure I'll enjoy that kind of game.
Okay, you should definitely play it.
Pretty sure I will.
Okay.
I don't know much about it, but knowing what you think,
okay,
knowing it, just nothing but high praise from you.
Yeah, well, I'm also the designer of that game is also a huge inspiration to me for creative stuff.
Well, that probably makes it even better. Yeah.
But anyway, another thing about this film is the sound design.
Mm-hmm.
I can talk about a few specific moments. One moment.
Oh, we don't talk about them.
Of that. No. I'm not going to say anything specific.
Okay.
But I can talk about specific moments when we get to spoilers.
Yes.
But the way that this film approaches sound design is the same way that it approaches its cinematography and its narrative in a sort of semi-experimental way, and it tries some very cool stuff.
Yeah. This makes me very curious about the films that are not about perception, because I feel like a film like Nostalgia, the one I just mentioned, is also about perception, because the film is literally called Nostalgia. But I know that his films like Stalker and Solaris are sci-fi films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so hard to imagine a science fiction film from this director.
Right.
I almost want to watch Solaris next.
Yeah, I want to watch Stalker next. I don't know, Solaris... Really? I don't know what I... Maybe it's because I know there's like this American remake of Solaris that like ruins it, and for some reason I just feel like Stalker, and I've heard better things, not better things, but like more just insane praise for Stalker. But maybe we should start with Solaris.
Oh, let me think about it, I guess.
Yeah, and also the historical biopic Andrei Rublev, which is one of his earlier works, and it's over 3 hours.
Oh wow!
And it's the film that we almost put on our long film expedition. Yeah. I really want to see that, because I feel like because it's an earlier work, he might approach things differently. Yeah. But like I could watch this film again tomorrow, The Mirror. I want to watch it again as soon as I can, because I can't talk about, I don't know what to say about it. It just felt like a thing that happened. And I'm like now awake. And now I'm trying to talk about a dream. And as the minutes go by, like, my memory of it is fading in memory. Am I right? Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, once we get into spoilers, we can talk about sort of the gain you get from that sort of experience. Because it's...
You're going to have to lead all the specific scenes, and then I'll riff on them.
Okay.
Because at this point...
Okay. Well, it's hard for me to talk about the film too,
right?
Because I could talk about moments that I thought were cool, but that's kind of about it. I feel
the thing is, all the moments that were cool just felt like one thing. So the only things I could talk about that are specific are probably like the scenes that made me feel bored, because those were the only scenes that took me out of the film, and so those are the only moments that I can pinpoint. All the other moments feel like something happened there. There are specific moments I can talk about. I'm exaggerating things a little bit, but I feel like there are so many moments that I can talk about that I just don't. Yeah, that I've already forgotten, because the whole thing just felt so... I was just glued to the screen, which is why that fly that kept on buzzing around.
Yeah, we had a fly that was... I think you got it.
I got
the fly.
I got the fly.
You got the fly. I think there were 2 flies, too.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure I got something, and then there was yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, but that was like probably less than half of the film. Yeah, where the flies were buzzing around. Of course,
that felt like a third.
Yeah,
quarter.
Exactly.
Even.
Maybe a third.
Yeah.
But yeah, because the TV screen's the only thing that's bright in the room, the flies all like gather there. So, but that's just, yeah. What do we say? Do you have recommendation? This feels like if David Lynch directed a film, but his main goal is not to disorient you, and that his goal is to make something poetic.
I can see that. I'm reminded of Stanley Kubrick.
Really?
At least, not in a narrative storytelling way, but in a cinematic way.
Really?
A little bit.
It's definitely meticulous. I like Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah, it's not as like rigid as Stanley Kubrick.
Exactly.
This is much more loose and poetic.
This makes me want to watch like Barry Lyndon, which is Kubrick's historical film. And I want to see how he approaches beautiful scenery and just nature.
There were some nature shots in this where I was like, wait, how did you make that happen?
Right.
like
because there were so many long takes in this movie.
Yeah.
And sometimes certain events in nature would be very well integrated.
Yeah, right? Like it's just the beauty of however he filmed it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sure better than The Happening.
Oh my god, I actually thought of that film.
Me too. And I think
there's a specific line, I think, that reminds you of the film.
Really?
A specific shot, even.
It's the shot. I don't remember a line, okay. But I remember a shot.
Yeah.
That was very, just reminded me of that.
Yeah.
But, this is very hard to talk about for me.
Okay. How about we just go into spoilers?
We should,
we
that's
can just
what I'm
talk
thinking.
about more specifics.
That's what I'm thinking.
Would you recommend this as a first Tarkovsky film?
I have no clue because I don't know what other Tarkovsky's like.
Okay, yeah, I'm the same way. I don't know either.
Yeah. It's probably gonna be difficult.
Yeah.
If you're not into just...
I'm not sure if this... I wonder... Well, it depends on what kind of film viewer you are as well, but I have a feeling another film might be a better first. Because of how poetic this is. But I'm basing that based off of my own experience of having a hard time connecting with it.
Right.
But yet,
It's so interesting because part of the reason I picked this... I knew that it was one of his most poetic films.
Interesting.
But at the same time, I knew it's one of his shortest. But I have a feeling that maybe some of his longer films will feel shorter. Because even though I was super absorbed by the film, it did not feel like a short film. It felt long.
It actually felt pretty short to me.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Nah, it felt like its runtime. And even a bit more. Yeah. So, hey, that's interesting. Because you couldn't really get into it, but like you felt it was short. Yeah. Well, I got into it and I thought it was long. Whoa. What is happening? Maybe all the moments were just so strong for me. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go into spoilers.
Okay.
All right. Dupe. Spoiler.
So the first thing that bored me was that it was actually near the very beginning. The first time it cuts to black and white and we see the whole newspaper debacle. Where she...
That was around the same time when I started to disengage.
Yeah.
Probably even a little earlier than that as well. Like, so if I remember the beginning, there's the very first scene with the hypnotism. If you remember.
The hypnotism?
Yeah, that's what that was.
Right. Yeah. I forgot about that. See, don't even remember that existed.
Yeah.
So before the opening credits, there's the hypnotism.
Yeah. Which is actually funny. Did I ever tell you I actually got into hypnotism at one point?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It was in middle school.
Okay.
I hypnotized kids in middle school.
Really?
It was wild. It worked half the time. It was creepy.
I bet. No, I've seen a at my high school graduation party. We had a hypnotist come. It's an overnight party, and we had a hypnotist come in at 4 a.m. And so that's when everybody was already tired out of their minds. We had a row of people all get hypnotized.
Wow.
And he did whatever he wanted. he made puppy dogs appear in their imagination, and they were petting them and laughing. And then at some point, the puppy dog turned big, and they were like, oh, but they were all sleeping.
I remember I have one particular very strong memory. We had finished a Iowa test, a standardized test, and we had a bunch of free time in
Iowa.
It's something in where I grew up, basically.
You grew up in Iowa?
No, I grew up in Georgia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for some reason they have something called an Iowa test.
Okay.
It's an acronym for something.
Oh,
but,
IOA or
yeah,
something. Okay.
Yeah, but we had like a couple hours free,
Uh-huh.
which is like designated for like time for you to complete it if you need a lot of
Oh,
time.
okay.
So we just all were finished, right?
Uh-huh.
And I hypnotized several students to do really fun things.
Okay.
Like each of you all believe you are a Harry Potter character.
Wow, yeah.
And like
crazy.
they go around and like they actually assigned different people to different characters. Like I was Hagrid, there was a Voldemort. It was really weird. Anyway, enough about that. More about the okay, back to the film.
Really, you didn't tell me about this stuff. Where did this come from?
How does a hypnotist seem like? That's a part of my life I haven't thought about in a long time.
Well, clearly, because I've never even heard of this. Hey, it's okay, you're making this review longer.
Yeah. But yeah, okay, so anyway, I brought up the beginning because, like, that's when I was the most engaged.
Yeah.
Because there seemed to be a promise of a narrative at that point.
Right.
But once it sort of became apparent that the narrative wasn't really a narrative at all, I lost something to grasp onto.
Okay.
So yeah, so there's the beginning scene. There's the next scene, which didn't have anything to do with it. After the title sequence,
with
I was very interested in the doctor.
with the man. Oh yeah,
very interested in the doctor. And then we have the dream sequence, and it's like, okay, so now we have surrealism and we have realism.
Which dream sequence?
The very first one.
What happens?
The kid wakes up and he sees the house and it's melting.
Yeah, the fire.
Yeah,
firehouse.
Fire. It's like, oh wow, this is interesting, and then it just kept spinning and spinning and spinning. As soon as, and by the time we got to the newspaper part, which I think it's like right after.
Yep.
It's like, oh, the narrative is just.
Yep. Okay, there are two things that probably helped me with the experience.
Uh-huh.
One is I knew very well what I was getting into with Tarkovsky.
I see.
Like especially because there's a YouTube channel I follow called Cinefix, and one of their favorite movies to mention is The Mirror.
Oh,
they mention it almost there's just a ton of their lists. So I've seen the scene, like the burning house scene, which, you know, put in context, it still doesn't mean much to me. It was very powerful for some reason, but I can't begin to go deep into it. But at the same time, I know the synopsis.
Oh, from what I gathered, it was like something about the doctor and the woman having some sort of affair.
Oh, really? That's not what it is.
Not affair, but like something. What is it?
I think it's crazy. You ready?
Yeah, what?
It's never explicitly mentioned in the movie except near the end.
It's about someone growing up, right, in different parts of their life.
Yes.
And he dies at the end.
Yes.
And it's his childhood, and it's about his mother.
Uh-huh.
And that's all I got.
Okay, you're very close, actually.
Yeah?
It's about a poet in his 40s on his deathbed and reminiscing about his life.
Oh. If I had known that, I would have watched the film entirely differently.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Like, I think it is the fact that I knew it. Like, I didn't think about, like, oh, this is him reminiscing. But there were moments where I'm like, oh, okay, knowing the plot, or knowing the synopsis does make this a little easier. But so much of it, again, was just my brain completely shutting down that I don't know. I have no idea how my experience would have been if I did not know about the synopsis. I have no idea.
I guess what made me not really think of that is that there were scenes that just had the mother.
Yeah.
And there was never a constant character. Like sometimes it would be the son and sometimes it would be the mother.
Yes.
And that goes against the logic of one person remembering his life, right?
That's very true.
Because, like, if it's the poet, he's not going to have a memory of her mother, like, showering at work, right?
Right.
But according to this film's logic,
according to Tarkovsky,
yeah.
I guess I don't have a problem with that for some reason. I thought that the same woman played different roles.
It seemed that way too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was hard to tell though.
Yeah, it seems like. And then there was the redhead lady who, like, apparently was his childhood crush, but then later on appears in the other house. That seemed like the same woman.
Really?
Yeah. When the mom took the... So, there's the kid with the name that begins with an I. Is he the same person?
I think so. I don't know.
Because we hear...
I don't track names very well.
We hear the narrator talk about the kid. So could it be that the narrator is the father? Because if we hear a narrator that we never see, then we're assuming that it's the man reminiscing of his past.
I think it's him. You know why?
Why?
The bird. You remember the bird?
I do remember the bird.
There's a scene where the bird flies on his head when he's very young.
But that's not the I kid. That's a different kid.
That's a different kid.
That's him explicitly saying this was me when I was younger. And this is when it was snowing and he was training. Yeah, and you could tell that kid had more freckles, and the kid with the name that begins with an I that I can't remember is like darker hair.
Maybe he was like a brother that only lived to be so old or something.
Maybe, but we hear the narrator talking in his adult voice to the actress who's also his mother, but clearly a lover in these scenes. And I feel like that kid is like their son, but which makes their visit to the other lady's house is the second moment where I was just like, because I thought right before that we had the black and white slow-mo moment, the first one, where like, you know, there's the kid running and I was like, wow, I'm so into this. Just like, it was just such a pure experience. I'm like, if the film ends here, this could be great. And then we see the next scene, which is the mom dragging the kid and then knocking on the door of the other house. And I'm like, what is this? But then soon, like, we see the spilled milk on the ground. And I think at that point, I was just absorbed again. My brain just shut down. I'm just like,
what do you mean
watching.
by your brain shutting down?
I'm just watching.
You're just watching?
I'm just watching.
Like you're not thinking?
Like I'm not thinking. But at the same time, like there are thoughts. It's kind of like a meditative state. You know, when you meditate, like I've dabbled with meditation a little bit, and I've never reached the Zen state of not thinking about anything or focusing on just your breath. But I've reached the state where there are thoughts, but they kind of just pass.
I have also done a little bit of meditation.
Yeah.
Last 2 summers ago, I actually did a Zen sitting.
Oh my gosh.
That was an hour where for 30 minutes you sit.
And
you do it with a group, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you done this before?
No, but I've heard my dad has done it actually.
Yeah, so like for what we did was 30 minutes we sit, and then 10 minutes we walk very slowly around the room.
Oh wow.
And then sit for 10 minutes. Then walk slowly around the room, and the whole thing lasts an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you trying to get at, like, how did it make you feel? Or did you just want to bring it up?
Not really like that.
Oh,
I just want to bring it up because the idea of meditation here, I guess I ask because I'm thinking about, you know, what is the intended effect for this film? And if it's that, or if it's something else, or not that, I mean, you have to have any specific reaction, but like,
I mean, you can imagine Tarkovsky making it, and did he like, you know, it's probably very different for him to make the film, right? For us
like
to
when I guess my sort of initial reaction when I see all this imagery is to think that the imagery has meaning,
right?
Especially when the imagery is so evocative,
right?
So, like, it's hard for me to know if the gap of knowledge that I'm missing is like an intentional, like, no, you don't know because I don't want you to know from Tarkovsky's part, or if it's something that's deeply rooted in Russian culture.
It's definitely both, because there are scenes where he shows raw footage of stuff in history.
Yeah.
And of course, there's the one that immediately resonated with me.
Yeah, the Mao Zedong.
Yeah, Mao Zedong, because I was taught that when I was younger. I know about, and I even saw, like, on the banner, they said, celebrate the 17th year of the People's Republic of China. And I actually, at that moment, I did the math in my head, because I know which year the People's Republic of China was found, which was 1949. So then I know that the footage was from 1966.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm like, wow.
Cultural Revolution, right?
A little, I think it's a little before that.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe when it just started. I can't quite get the context of what it was, but just the fact that I see all of them with the Mao Zedong statues, it was just something in me that's just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I imagine like all of the other footage was probably something similar for a Russian audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we got the mushroom cloud.
Yeah, that was probably Japan, like.
Yeah, definitely.
Japan in World War II. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think this film was made in the 70s.
Okay.
So I feel like they've also lived through the nuclear crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the 60s where things were so tight and it seemed like the world was about to end. But somehow it didn't.
I guess just what do you walk away with this film with though?
I don't know.
Right now I don't walk away with anything.
Really?
Yeah.
I walk away with the state. Just like I've experienced something.
But what is that something?
Exactly. What is it? That's why I can't talk about it.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah.
And I wish I can tell you. I want to tell you what it is. But it's just this... It's not even a feeling. There's not an emotion associated with it. It was just the experience that I've experienced something poetic. But it's just, I'm in with the poetry. And sure, there's narration with, words. But not all the words register in my head as meaning. And I remember at the beginning with the credits, they actually said it's like inspired by the poetry of this other Tarkovsky, which I'm assuming is like a relative of his.
Was he also a poet?
He probably.
I mean, in this context, he may as well be.
Yeah, but his name wasn't Andrei. It was some other first name.
Okay.
So if it were his father, then this film has another meaning. Like, it's clear that Tarkovsky, there's so much of it is... Because a lot of it is about Russian history, but a lot of it just feels like it's about his personal life. It's just so personal. And I think because of how meticulous the cinematography is, I feel just the personal nature of it. And I just feel like it's the feeling that he has something to say. And at some point early on, my brain gave up on trying to figure it out. And after it gave up, I just floated along with it. It felt like I floated along with the movie.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's the feeling. I floated along with the movie. And sometimes I was aware that, again, it felt like a longer film because at the end of a specific scene, I would just suddenly be aware, just like, oh, I am watching this. And I don't understand it. And I should be bored. But I'm riveted. Like, I was wide awake for this film.
Oh, wow.
Just my eyes were basically glued to the screen like this. Yeah, except for the one or two moments where I was bored a little bit. Yeah, I can't explain it.
Cool.
Like, certain transitions would happen, and it would just register, just like, oh, that's a transition.
You could probably attribute that, well, I don't know. I mean, from my own experience, I didn't have that experience, but timing has such a great power to transfix you like that. That's something he does so incredibly well.
Exactly.
Like, his sense of editing is... It's not standard. It's not what you expect. But its logic makes so much sense.
Exactly.
Like, shots go on way longer than they should, according to a lot of other styles of film.
Yeah.
But it feels just so right here.
It does feel so right.
Nothing feels out of place. Even when it goes away to something else and then goes back. Yeah. Even that makes sense.
Right.
In the world of this film.
Right.
It's really interesting.
I'm racking my brain thinking of moments cinematographically. How do you pronounce that? Because I know that word exists.
Cinematography.
Whatever. Okay. Yeah. Right.
Whatever.
Okay.
That's weird.
But I'm racking my brain thinking of moments that strike me, and I'm thinking of two. One of them was an early scene when I think it was during the newspaper scene when she was walking down the hall, and then suddenly it's like the camera just decides to not follow her anymore. She just walks off.
The camera did that a lot.
Yeah.
Like, a character would be talking, and the camera would be on something else.
Right.
Like a really simple example of that was she was getting roasted by this one woman in the newspaper scene, and it just stayed on her.
Right.
Her listening to it most of the time.
Right.
And the camera only very infrequently went to the person who was actually talking. Or like, someone would leave a room and then the camera would stay.
Right.
And you'd be like, okay, now it's gonna cut away.
Yeah.
And then something falls. Oh, there's this awesome moment.
What
so
the?
It's like this person leaves, the camera stays. Oh, it's gonna go cut away. Something falls off the table.
And then I'm like, Hereditary?
And then the camera just pans and we're like, oh, we're going over here now.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And the length of some of these shots.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff the actors just have to know.
The shot where he was out in the field.
Yeah.
He walks out. He turns around.
The wind blows.
And the wind blows like perfectly timed with like how he walks. It's like, okay, you don't control the weather. That's not something you can do. How did you do that?
Wind machines exist, but not to that scope.
Well, duh, that's not how he did it. But that was just like they probably just did it a bunch of times until they got a good timing, I assume.
Maybe.
But
it's just mystery.
But
speaking of mystery shots, how did she float above the bed?
I think I know how.
Really?
There is a I mean, it could.
It's like a magician trick.
There's a magician trick where there's a thing that it's very thin and it can basically be a very skinny platform that you lie on.
Okay.
And her dress, if you noticed, was kind of like this.
Yes.
And her hair was probably like made to have like a stick in it or something.
Okay, yeah.
And I assume it was like connected to the wall behind her.
Well, it integrated with the scene perfectly. So
it looks
so I only mildly questioned, like, whoa, how is this happening?
Yeah.
But another scene where you can totally tell that something in nature was done by just outer effects was like, there's a scene where the kid runs into the house. No, it's the scene where he couldn't open the door. You see rain, just like drizzle. And then it just kind of stops on one side.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
And then the other side kind of just stops too. It's like the briefest rain, but it kind of rains hard, and then it stops on one side, and the other side just stops. That's like probably a rain machine.
Yeah.
Because it can't be that sporadic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, the way that it incorporated surrealism was very interesting because which part of what made me hard to track, because like with something like, to quote our favorite director Satoshi Kon, he makes it, he also does this thing where dreams and the real and the surreal mix, but
that's so concrete.
Yeah, but he makes it so concrete so that you still feel oriented even though you're being twisted around and you're constantly having to question where you are.
Yeah.
But everything makes sense in a way that you're still able to follow the story.
Well, what happens with
and interpret why there's surrealism. But here it's just like an open window.
Right. Well, what happens in the Perfect Blue is that something happens, and you question what happened before that and whether there's like it's real or not. But you can always readjust yourself. Like, okay, at this point, I can say that this is real, or maybe this isn't real. But at least I have something to begin tracking this film again.
Right, and the film also starts completely non-surreally, and it very gradually ramps up the surrealism, right? So, like, by the time the surrealism comes, you're already very well grounded in the film. Yeah. Where here, it just starts right off with whatever you call this.
Even with the use of black and white and color, there's no consistency.
That was the thing, like, my mind was like, the connection I made was like colors later in his life in black and white and
it's not that
film. It didn't.
No, it's not that at all. Because there's scenes with the eye kid that were in black and white, and there's scenes with that eye kid that were in color.
Yeah, it's all mixed together. It seems.
Yeah. Wait. Could it be? No.
What were you thinking?
Maybe any scene with his narration, where he's the one looking, where he's the one. He's literally the camera is black and white. Because I'm thinking about which color scene featured the mom and the son, and that was when they went to the other lady's house.
But there were some scenes, maybe, but there were some scenes where, like, he obviously wasn't there. Like, he wouldn't have.
Oh yeah, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
of course. There's a newspaper scene.
Although you could be onto something about the logic of how it works.
Right.
It could be something close to that.
Maybe. Logic. There's definitely a logic in there. Like, that's the thing. He's so successful in creating a cinematic world. And exactly what you said about what makes it hard to track for you is what made it easy to immerse in for me.
Yeah, you sort of just, like, let go.
I just let go.
Yeah, I also let go, but I let go in a way that was disengaged.
Right. It got to a point where, you know how you mentioned surrealism? I had to think, yeah, that's surrealism. Because it's in my mind, it didn't even register as surrealism. Huh. It's just this film. Huh. Like, when I think of surrealism, maybe even in the future, I will be much more prone to think of, like, a Jodorowsky or maybe even, like, a Mulholland Drive, like David Lynch.
Right.
Than to immediately go for this film. Because this one just felt like poetry in a way that...
Yeah, surrealism isn't really a good term then. It's more just like poetic filmmaking.
Yeah, yeah. And here's a comparison I wanted to make. Right from the beginning, with the scene with hypnotism, I was reminded of Persona by Ingmar Bergman.
So?
I don't know, something about the way... I mean, I could only read subtitles, and one's in Swedish and one's in Russian. But something about the way that particular opening was shot and the way the dialogue was delivered in an almost raw way.
It was also black and white.
Yeah, and it was black and white.
Yeah.
It reminded me of Persona, but having read a lot about Persona before I eventually watched it on Letterboxd and stuff, that movie has a 4.4. That's considered, one of the best films on Letterboxd, and I only mildly enjoyed it. I thought it was good, but it seems like everyone had this experience with it that was just super absorbing. And for me, Tarkovsky was that experience that I did not get in Persona. Yeah, because with Persona, I don't even want to go too many spoilers, but he does integrate, like, the setting, the outdoor setting, with just the melodrama going on within the two people's lives.
Yeah, that movie's a melodrama. This movie is really just like poetry.
That's true.
Yeah. Although I totally get what you mean in the style being similar. Like the way...
Yeah, there's something about it. Even though Bergman's focus is always on narrative, Bergman makes sure the audience knows what the characters are going through. Even if it's hard, for me personally, to connect with the two women in Persona. Yeah. He also uses surrealism in that film, but that's really weird. That's a really odd way of using it. It's a very different way of using it, yeah. Yeah. But this film is this film. Like, see, the reason I say I want to rewatch it immediately again is because it felt so fleeting at the same time. Like, when it's over, I'm just like, it's over. It's like, I got something from it.
I knew during the last shot it was the last shot.
I knew too. I knew.
Yeah, it was like classic, like going back, the
forest,
and the Bach.
The Bach made its return.
Yeah. Oh, we should talk. I want to talk about the sound.
Sure.
So it was interesting how it sort of introduced the music. It actually told you in the beginning what music it was going to play.
Yes.
Which I'm not sure if I've seen a film do that before, like this.
Right.
Like, say, this has the music by these composers. I don't even know if it listed the pieces.
I think Call Me By Your Name did that.
Really?
Maybe. Oh, no, it talked about original music written by Sufjan Stevens. The original...
Oh, well, that's a thing where, like, you're, like, listing the credits. But this had classical works by classical composers.
That's true.
And it listed the classical composers. That's what I mean.
But there was
it's different when, like, you have original music written for the film.
Right.
Yeah.
But there was music that's clearly not Purcell or Pergolesi or Bach. There was this one big dramatic dissonant swipe.
Oh, you're right.
The sweep.
Yeah.
And then there was one other moment.
I had just missed it. I thought I had missed a classical composer that
Really?
was more modern.
No, all of those are Baroque.
Baroque, okay.
It's really strange.
Okay.
And there's this constant, the timpani riff, the dun dun dun, dun dun dun, that came back.
Yeah.
That's not...
Okay, so that was probably original score then.
Yeah.
There was one moment with the score, where the score and the music and the sound integrated. That was so cool. So there's the kid in the house.
Yeah.
I think he had just read the notebook.
Yes.
To the woman. I think she
says...
says...
that scene.
She says, hey, go get the door.
Uh-huh.
And the string music very slowly starts playing. And you can't really hear it.
Oh, that's the scene I'm talking about.
You can't really hear it. He goes to the door. He opens the door. And then the sound rises up.
Yeah.
And you realize you hear the street.
Really?
It's a street noise.
Really?
You hear the street noise, and the woman says, oh, I have the wrong apartment, sorry. She leaves. He closes the door, the music mutes back again. But when it mutes back to the orchestra.
Oh, I didn't know it was a street noise.
Yeah, it goes from street orchestra to street noise to orchestra.
Okay.
And the orchestra is so close to the street noise that they sort of blend together.
Right.
It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen in between sound and music. It was incredible.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another soundtrack moment I noticed, but I couldn't get any meaning from, was I think they played Purcell in that scene. It was a scene with the weird hot air balloons. It was like raw footage.
That was a really pretty song.
Yeah, I was like, what am I supposed to be feeling here? I don't know, but I'm dreaming. Let's just go back to the dream. Yeah, it's like in a dream you're aware of things, but you just accept it. You just accept the fact that you're just doing it.
Yeah, you're much more accepting in dreams.
Exactly. That's how I feel with this film. Like I'm aware of things, but I'm much more accepting. Yeah. And then there's the whole thing with the Da Vinci book.
Oh yeah, that's what that was.
Yeah, it's Leonardo da Vinci, and then there are paintings of like the Mona Lisa and stuff.
Okay.
I think it's like a biography on Da Vinci, for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. Are you thinking of something?
Well, it just reminded me that I didn't really understand that was Da Vinci.
Oh, okay.
So I sort of interpreted that as generic religious iconography.
Oh no, I mean...
But I realize now that's not really what it was.
Yeah. The scene that was really rooted in Russian history is definitely the scene that was the reading scene with the kid.
What was he even reading?
He was reading a letter from like the King of Prussia or something to someone else. And it was like supposed to be really... No, not Prussia. Prussia is part of Germany. What am I talking about? But it's some Russian dude sent a letter in the 1800s to someone else talking about Russia and how when it separated from Europe, it remained Christian, but it like couldn't be fully Christian because it was so segregated from the rest of Europe.
Okay.
And so there's clearly something about that. You wonder, man, is this guy religious?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah. I gotta watch the sci-fi films because I've heard like all the sci-fi films are super heady and spiritual. So I'm really interested.
Yeah, maybe I just have heard of this somewhere, but I think he's very much like... I don't know if he's agnostic or religious, but I think he is like very concerned with religion in his film.
I don't think an atheist could have made a film like this.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Although that's kind of an assumption, but I get the feeling he has.
Right, exactly. It is an assumption.
Yeah.
But holy crap, with something like this. Like David Lynch could be an atheist. I'm not sure. But his style of surrealism
Which directors are atheists?
Which surreal directors are atheists? Jodorowsky feels like an atheist who's obsessed with religion. Who just studies it.
Yes.
Right? Right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty accurate, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Just came up with that.
Let's take this image and make you do this. This image, put that here. Okay, now let's make like 20 of them.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. El Topo too. Not just
all the films I've seen by him have just weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's Jodorowsky.
That's Jodorowsky, yeah. We're just riffing at this point.
Yeah.
What else is there
That's
to
what
say
we do.
about this movie? Well, yeah, but even more.
I don't know. Like we've covered some pretty good stuff.
I feel that way too.
Yeah.
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 You know.
Is it time to end already? I don't even know how long it's been.
I think it's been half an hour.
Half an hour? That feels about right.
Yeah. Well, I want breakfast.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of meta stuff, let's talk about how people look at the camera.
That really... I didn't know what to think of that. Because this film doesn't seem meta at all to me. It's just like, she looks at the camera.
But within the
and that's it.
But within the dreamlike logic, it made sense. That's the thing. See, I can't talk about anything without just saying it was great.
It's dreamlike state almost just denies any interpretation almost.
Right. Well, half the times you realize she was actually looking at something. The other half she just kind of glances.
Yeah.
Because there was the one time where she does a hard look, and then it cuts to black and white, and you see the skinny dude.
Yeah, that was a very strong moment. And where she just cuts the chicken. That was a very strong moment.
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
that's what happens before. That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The feathers fly, and you hear the chicken scream. And
yeah, that actually reminded me of a Hanukkah film. I don't know if you remember which one. There's one that features a chicken. You might not even remember it because...
Let's see.
It's one of the few that I've seen.
I remember.
You know which one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the one you showed me.
That freaking terrified me when that happened.
Oh boy.
Like it jumped. I'm just like, whoa.
That's something that Hanukkah really likes to do.
Yeah.
Is kill animals.
Hey, Jodorowsky too.
Yeah. I mean, in Hanukkah, he makes it a little bit more ethical because it's like livestock.
Right.
But it's not like Jodorowsky just getting a bunch of frogs and blowing them up or something.
Or the sheep. Let's not go too deep into Jodorowsky.
Yeah.
Too many spoilers. But yeah, that was very powerful. I thought that was like the most oddly feminist. I don't even know if it's intended to be feminist. It's like, we women can't do that. We need a man. She cuts it, stares at the camera like, yeah, bitch, I just did that. That's how I took it. I'm just like, wow, that's badass. Oh my gosh.
I mean, it might be hard to say.
And there's also the water dripping from the back.
Oh, yeah.
What a cool...
Yeah.
It was just crazy.
It's just like water.
It's when the logic just works. Oh, I just love it. It just works.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it might not have been too out of place for women to do those sorts of tasks in Russian culture.
Well, yeah.
So it might not have been a feminist thing.
But the fact that the woman explicitly says that.
True.
Right.
Okay. Again,
it's
I
weird.
I have no way of knowing.
It's weird, yeah.
I feel like there's so much to this film that is just like... It's just beyond my knowledge.
Yeah.
Because I don't know anything about Russian culture.
That's the brilliance, though. For me, it felt like it wasn't trying to shun me away from it, but it also... I'm very well aware that there are stuff I just don't understand about the decisions he makes, especially in that middle chunk where the raw footage comes in.
Remember the bullfighter guy?
I do remember the bullfighter guy. Yeah.
He was very entertaining.
Yeah, I wonder what that whole thing about Spain is, because like there was the scene where the mother just says, he's talking about Spain again. Or no, the narrator says, he's talking about Spain again. Please stop him before it turns into a fight. So there's some beef going on, no pun intended. Oh, that was so good. That was so good.
No, it wasn't.
That was the best pun.
No, it was not.
It was so good. Because it wasn't intentional.
Even if it wasn't intentional, that was
good.
not good.
Best. That was amazing. But yeah, that's a very strange moment because it shows actual footage of like bullfighting, and then it just cuts to him doing that weird announcer shit. Yeah.
Can't begin to. Yeah.
Yeah. So odd, but it works in my head when I watched it. That's all. See, one of the things I question is if I lived back in the 70s and I didn't know who this Tarkovsky was, I just went into the theater and watched this film without any knowledge of it. maybe I've read the synopsis saying it's about a poet. If this film didn't have the reputation it has, would I still have the same experience? I feel like there might be a part subconsciously where I just accept the fact that he's amazing. But see, that's, again, going back to the Persona experience. That was my first Ingmar Bergman film, and I was so ready to just dive headfirst into it. But I just didn't get that experience.
I actually did get to have that experience with a few films when I was younger.
Yeah.
Where I would watch a film, like, when I was like 15 or 16. Because something I would do very frequently back then is watch films online. And I'd watch something, and it would be something that was pretty well acclaimed by a pretty well acclaimed director. Like maybe like Wise Eyed Shut, for instance.
Eyes Wide Shut, not Wise Eyed.
Eyes Wide Shut.
Wise Eyed Shut.
Yeah. I watched that
that's
film
such a good name.
because, like, this looks interesting. I don't know anything about this film. I didn't like really know the director of Stanley Kubrick back then either.
I haven't seen Eyes Wide Shut, by the way. I know.
And I watched it, and I was just sort of like, that was a really weird film. And I didn't like have like it in my mind that this was like super acclaimed.
Right.
So I just sort of saw it as a weird film and a weird experience.
Okay.
Then when I watched it again later, I had a completely different experience because I knew who Stanley Kubrick was. I knew he was an acclaimed director. And my viewing of the film was much higher. Like, I held it in higher regard in that second viewing.
Right.
So, yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up because I've gotten to have that experience.
I've definitely had that too, but I can't remember what. One film I had a really positive experience with, not knowing anything, was Pan's Labyrinth.
Oh, yeah, that's one of your favorites.
Yeah, well, it used to be. Now they've seen The Shape of Water. Oh, in my opinion, it blows.
I still haven't seen Shape of Water.
Yeah, we will. You will. Oh. But I think that blows Pan's Labyrinth out of the water. That was not a good pun.
That was better.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
Beef was best.
This one was simpler, so it was better.
Oh, but no, the beef one had the complexity.
The complexity of bullfighting?
But beef. Oh, the fact that I didn't think of it, trust me, it made sense in my head, just like this film did. Wow. That was pretty smooth.
Oh my god.
I'm just...
Oh my god.
Sweet. Stream of consciousness talking. Yeah, it's a bullfighter. Hey, I'm down to the point where I'm just picking up moments. There's one shot where the kid was doing something, and this was definitely the younger version of the narrator, where, you know, the bald kid, like, we know the very young toddler bald kid was him, because they made that very clear. There's a scene where he's like looking or talking, and then he just lowers his head, and the camera just zooms out to the blurry window. And that's another moment where, like, the camera just does what it wants. It dreams on. Dream on. Dream on. Yep. Well, I guess that's it. It seems like we've run out of juice.
Yeah, I think that's all I want to say.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this is the mirror.
Yeah.
It's the mirror.
It's the mirror.
Yeah. Okay. Well, enjoy your lives.
Enjoy your life.